Hello and welcome to another Register Kettle, your chance to hear about the news from the people that actually write it. Now, we've had a very interesting last 24 hours. The US has sanctioned Kaspersky, and it's basically saying that you cannot sell this software anywhere in the US after June, and they're not going to be supported beyond September. Now, Jessica, you've been covering this story right at the hard edge. Can you tell us what's going on?
Yeah, so like you said yesterday, Commerce Department said following a 2-year investigation that they have deemed Kaspersky to be a threat to national security, and they've prohibited the sale and reselling of its products in the U.S. So that, like you said, takes effect beginning July 20th for new customers. It can't sign any new agreements, but then existing customers have until September 29th to basically wean themselves off of Kaspersky products.
And after that, no more security updates.
Right. No more security updates, no more malware signatures. And they did make it clear that they're not going to be going after the end users, but resellers, anyone who integrates it, anyone who sells Kaspersky products could be subject to either fine or criminal prosecution. But one interesting thing, though, is that they didn't, the investigation, none of that's public. So we don't have any details of what they actually found, what any of the specifics are, just that that Kaspersky could be used as a tool for Moscow to spy on U.S. citizens.
And we've also had, just literally as we were sitting down to do the podcast, 12 members of Kaspersky's management have been stuck on an entity list, but not the CEO. What on earth's going on there?
Right. That's really interesting because it is basically the entire C-suite. It's the CTO, the head of R&D, the chief human resource officer, chief communication officer, handful of other people, everybody who reports to the CEO, Eugene Kaspersky, but he's notably absent from the list, which does seem a little bit unusual.
Yeah, sorry, Chris, you just made a gesture there, just like, what the hell is going on here?
It's kind of like they don't want to make it personal. It's like, yeah, we're taking out Kaspersky, but but I don't know, sparing Eugene, I think it's strange. Or I don't know, maybe something is to come on that. Maybe there's more to come on that. Who knows? It's interesting that this has been kind of drip fed out a little bit. They could have done this all in one day, but it's been, I don't know, it's been drip fed out. Who knows what's going to come out this afternoon? It's on a Friday. These things tend to come out on a Friday, so more bad.
Exactly, dump it out in the trash. I mean, Tom, as a software specialist, how realistic is it that this is being used by the Putin state to spy on Americans?
Well, I would just say that they're glad that they have access to Microsoft software.
And China.
I think if you were to count the whatever data volume by vendor, probably a lot of it comes from Microsoft vulnerabilities and not from Kaspersky spying. I mean, I understand why this happens. I mean, with the nationalization of technology stacks, everybody is worried that anything made elsewhere could conceivably be backdoored, and there's a little bit of truth to that. But no one actually comes out with any evidence about that. It's all sort of, well, this could happen, and the reality is that software is complicated, and there are a lot of ways in which information can be filtered out through software, and banning Kaspersky, I think, is a sort of bit of a flag waving move, but I don't know if it's going to be very effective.
Well, I mean, this is it. I mean, in the US, we have national security letters. Putin is a slightly more forceful demonstration of getting companies to work with him, defenestration or accidentally cutting your throat while shaving or whatever. But, I mean, at the end of the day, how much can we actually trust the core security systems that we've got? Because they're all open to abuse.
Well, also, didn't Kaspersky open up its source code? Didn't it offer to do that like a few years ago?
Right, it did that back in 2017. Right. I mean, that's the thing. The government has kind of been moving toward this for several years now, ever since DHS initially started sounding the alarm and banning federal agencies from using it. And then they did, in response, open their source code. So I think that yesterday's news was inevitable, but they've been going down this road for quite a while. And
so is that the case currently, though? I mean, is their software all open source? I mean, because that would be a really sort of weird position to take, that we're going to ban this and it's entirely open source.
Well, it's not so much as open source as that Kaspersky offered to open up their books. It's like it's like how there was another company recently that did that. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head where they had like code sharing agreements. Oh, Microsoft, that was it. Microsoft offers to show its source code for Windows to any government that's interested, including China. And then, like, a few years later, we find out things like, Microsoft Exchange Online gets ransacked because someone finds a secret key. I think it's an interesting point that, it's this must be a great day this must be a great week for people like, I don't know, everyone else, Avast, Mandiant, everyone else who like Malwarebytes, everyone else who offers like, antivirus. Yeah. I wonder why it just took so long. It's been, maybe they honestly thought that there wasn't too much. I mean, as you said, the investigation is private, and they thought if they go too early with this, they might end up losing in court, which will be a really bad look. So I don't know why it's taken so long. I would have thought it would have kicked in within weeks, days of Russia invading Ukraine.
Well, that's about when the investigation started. So I think they said it took 2 years. Again, we don't know what it found or didn't find, but it's been moving toward this point since the invasion, essentially.
Yeah, the logical outcome for all of this is that any kind of software that is used in public systems need to be open source. There are probably a number of people who think that that's a great idea. The whole sanctioning of technology, though, is pretty problematic. I think if you look at the barriers that have been erected to China trade and what's happened with their chip industry and their move toward Harmony OS for mobile devices, all the sanctions really do is encourage the sanctions party to innovate. And so now technologies in China has actually gotten a lot stronger because of the U.S. sanctions. So, be careful of unintended outcomes.
Well, they can also be invaded. They can be evaded. Well, not evaded, but they can be worked around as well. Every so often you hear like a story come out, like say that, by the way, that whole crackdown on this particular part of Chinese technology, American businesses can still obtain that technology via, they either get licenses from the US government. They just make a case that like, we're going to go out of business, or we really super need these components. And they still get to trade with Chinese businesses, or it comes in through other routes. Are we going to start to see knockoff copies of Kaspersky antivirus? We're going to start to see like bootleg versions of it.
So you'd really trust a bootleg version of Kaspersky, wouldn't you?
I'm joking.
But at the same time, but at the same time, there's a really serious problem here for IT managers, IT admins. If you're running Kaspersky, you basically got to rip and replace as soon as possible, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, because you're going to run out of malware signatures, and quite a lot of businesses rely on it. But I wonder if they, maybe the writing was on the wall when they kicked Kaspersky out of federal networks, because that's normally the first start. And if you were relying on Kaspersky at that point, you might have been a bit of a signal. I would say that if you've got any other technology in your stack or environment, and you can see the US government starts to ban it federally, I would assume that it's going to come to the private sector within, I don't know, X years, 2 years, depending on the administration.
It would be interesting to see how much of this is driven by lobbying from people who would pick up the business of the sanctioned company. Was there a lot of whispering from Mandy and the like saying, hey, you should really look at these Kaspersky guys?
Yeah.
Well, Symantec and McAfee, what was McAfee, have been banging on this door for 10 years now. And it's about they're a threat, they're a security risk, and now it's just basically come down to they're Russian. Let's ban them. It's like more business for us.
I'm a bit worried about like the people who have Kaspersky installed, and it may not dawn on them, or they might forget by the end of September that they're not going to get any more they're not going to get more updates.
Well, I think that's it. I think it's going to be mostly the small businesses and consumers too, who are the ones who are most likely not to do anything about this, and so. And that's the thing, like there's nothing, at that point, the government's basically said, well, we're warning you, you're on your own if you don't uninstall it by that point. But I think that's a very likely possibility.
Do you think malware operators are going to jump on this?
I can see them trying to exploit it. I can see them trying to exploit it.
It's one more route, so why not?
Yeah. I think it's it's interesting. I wonder if Kaspersky is going to push out one last update that tells everybody, by the way, this software is now dead. I wonder if they'll do that honorable thing, or they would be
a smart move. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting that again, they haven't gone after Eugene Kaspersky, Mr. Kaspersky yet. which could be seen as a diss, could be seen as the fact that like, well, he's kind
You're
of,
not worth it.
it's like when, sometimes, countries get invaded and the country is allowed to keep its monarch. It gets a little bit of a feeling of that, like, oh, okay, well, we're not trying to totally destroy Kaspersky because, at least Eugene's not in the crosshairs yet.
Well, we all remember how the Russian Revolution went. They kept the monarch around for a while, and then it was, into that railway car, and you're gone. I suspect it's going to be the same way with Kaspersky, but we'll have to see. We're going to keep a close eye on this one.
And they did say they did say they're going to fight it legally. Kaspersky did. So possibly the deadline gets extended. Possibly it gets stalled for a bit. I think ultimately it's inevitable, but there is the chance that it could be pushed out a bit. So we'll see.
That is a possibility. I mean, this is the land of the lawsuit after all, and you could delay this for a while. So,
okay. And there's also the whole thing with TikTok as well, that's
up in the air.
Yeah, like, they're trying to battle to kind of get TikTok out of the US. And now they're trying to do Kaspersky. I mean, how many fronts? I mean, how much foreign software is America going to start to throw out at this rate?
Isn't DJI under consideration for?
DJI is currently in Congress at the moment. I've been getting press releases from politicians just like, we need to ban this dangerous technology. It's like, it's dangerous technology when someone else does it.
I'm actually starting to think of like what foreign software is big in the US. SAP, which is German-based, Atlassian, Australian. At least like Germany and Australia are kind of allies of America.
No one who speaks German could be a bad person. But
no, absolutely not. As someone who's a quarter German. But like, what else? What other foreign software is America going to throw out next that like it doesn't like the look of?
Honestly, I think Tom's right. Go with open source. That way you get everyone in the world checking it, and everyone in the world. We're seeing this with Signal in the EU at the moment. They're just like, Telegram of all people are saying, Signal might be backdoored. It's like, your Telegram. Be quiet.
Your Telegram. Like, projecting.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're going to have to see how this develops. But thank you very much, everyone. And you can catch the audio version of this on your usual podcast channels. And in the meantime, we'll be back later on next week.